What's up guys, welcome back to Rio Polo. Well, thanks to some awesome comments from you guys, we're going to start today's episode making things a little bit more authentic. The buildings are going to be put a little closer together, sometimes wall to wall. The idea is to have less alleyways, and the alleyways that we are going to leave are going to be full of fences and lots of trees. We're also going to put some of Sully's decals really to the test here and see how grungy we can make these vanilla buildings look. So that's going to be a little bit of a theme for today's episode. You're going to see me revisit quite a bit of what's been built already and just make it better basically. So the first thing I'd like to build is going to be the main train station, and it's like a end of line style. I'd like to have sort of 4 or 5 different lines coming into it, and of course I'm going to be following that real life model from Rio de Janeiro. Not 100%, but definitely the main inspiration is coming from there. When I first built the map, I put an outside train connection in, so I've got to run this line up and out to that point, and I'm also going to put in a train connection to a different side of the map. We used to have to use a mod in CS1 to do this, but we don't have to now. I can just run a separate train line all the way to the edge of the map, and it does it automatically. Next thing is to set all the lines up coming into the station, and there's going to be 5 different lines here, all coming off the one train line. And then the first thing I want to do before I build anything up is get the train line in here and just sort of make sure it's working first. As you can see, I don't have a station down, I've just used station tracks, which allows us to set a line up to it, exactly how we would with a real train station. Now you guys would have also seen my real dodgy little industry area that I've built off camera. Now I'm going to go put another train station next to that just to get that part working. There might be a small demand for that at the moment as well, with people travelling out there for work. So that's one of 2 lines, and the second line is going to be the one coming in from the edge of the map. One thing I'm not sure on at this point is how the citizens are going to get on and off these blank train stations. So for now, I've just run some pedestrian paths out there from the roadside, and I'm hoping that they use those. Time will tell. Well, no one's using it. Not a single person. Well, not yet anyway. It's still early days, and I've got the trains coming in, so that's one part of the battle won. So, you know, bugger it. I'm going to start detailing it. It would have been really nice to see exactly where the citizens, pedestrians are walking, so that I can sort of detail closely around that, but I think we're just going to have to wait for that. I've kept the pathways as simple as I can, and this should be pretty easily modified in future if we need to. So here I'm using the same concrete prop that I used to create the marina in the last episode, and I'm setting it up here as a platform. It's pretty no frills, but it was the most appropriate prop that I could find. And it's cool, with the trains coming in here, I can actually set this up really close to where they come in so that it's an easy step off the train. The next thing I'm going to do has a lot to do with the real life model. Down one side there's an extended building. I'm not sure what this is in real life, but I thought it would be pretty cool to make it like old industry that's been repurposed into new industry. So maybe it was some sort of mill a couple of 100 years ago, and now it's a factory that makes sneakers. I don't know. It looks pretty interesting either way. The next thing I'll do is plop down the largest building that we see out the front of the train station. In real life this has got a big clock on it, and it's right on the corner. So thanks to the trains coming in, we can see exactly where to put the end of the line, like the platform, to officially end the train line. So I'm going to use that same concrete prop and just rotate it 90 degrees. Run that across the end of the lines here so you can't see the end of the track, and then use the better bulldozing mod to get rid of those like stays at the end of the track. Not a train dude, I don't know the official names of these things. Now that I'm getting the hang of the props in game, I can sort of see what's missing a little bit, and one of them is just a sort of plain door. If there was a plain glass door available, I would have put that all around the inside of the train station here as access points out and into the city. So instead I've just used the shop front, which is actually a really cool prop in itself. I don't know how appropriate that would be around here, but that's the closest thing I got to a door. I'll finish the area off with some little wee props and lots of advertising. Rio certainly has a lot of very cool spots, but there's one spot that I've been looking at that has really inspired me to do this. There's a part of the city that has an old aqueduct with, it looks like an abandoned rail line on top of it, and this is just, what a cool and unique thing to try and add into the city. So that's what we're going to do here. And just to make it even more difficult, we're going to take it directly over all of the train lines that we've just made, and on a really weird angle too, just to try and make it sort of look organic. So first things first, I've got to raise up some height either side here so that the train line that's running on top can run nice and flat. I don't have any specific plan for the train line at this point, but I'd like it to go somewhere, so I'm going to slope the terrain down to the beach on one side. Now I can put the line through, and this will elevate automatically in City Skylines 2, but unfortunately the version that is vanilla, it just doesn't look anything like what we're going for. So I went on a massive mission to try and find a prop that we could do this with, and the best I could find was a chimney, and they all smoke, and as far as I know, smoking bridges aren't really realistic. I'm a little bit biased, but the game is begging for a procedural objects mod already. One simple click, all sorted. But at this stage it does force us to get creative, and I did find one chimney that didn't smoke, and it was white, so this'll do, I guess. It's not perfect, but I'm going to try and make it work. So we're going to couple this with some other like highway pillar thingies that create a little bit of an archway, and just, try and make it work really. In terms of aesthetics, it's like a two-layered, so there's two different elevations of archways here. As it stands right now, we have no copy function with the Move It mod, so all of these have to be placed one at a time. I'm not going to show all of the build because it's quite boring, but this is what it looks like at the end, and I think this looks pretty cool. At first glance, it doesn't look like chimneys at all. I've decided to make a botanical gardens on one side, and I really want to try and make this side look really old. There is a lot of influence from the Mediterranean here. Lots of white pastel facades, lots of terracotta roofs. They're not afraid to build on elevations. There's so much in common here, at least architecturally wise. So I'm going to start by winding a road up here. We're going to need this for services to run within game. And I chose to put a botanical gardens up here because I thought this might have some sort of historical significance. Maybe it has some sort of royal garden or something like that that's turned into what it is now. But this gives me a chance to put something really beautiful up here as well, and something interesting. We're going to run the tram line right in next to this. Maybe that line brought something in back in the day of some importance. But before we get to detailing anything, I need to set everything out properly. I found a couple of really nice buildings I've put down that we're going to turn into the botanical gardens, but I'd also like to make a couple of really windy, curvy, organic roads up here that are going to represent the older part of the city. The first buildings we're going to place down, well, let me tell you what my thinking is. My thinking is the botanical gardens have brought in a lot of tourists, a lot of commercial revenue, and the buildings adjacent to that have upgraded. They've made good revenue over the years because of being really close to a very touristic area, and they've upgraded to a hotel, added a few floors. And before I get any more carried away with putting those buildings down, we're going to move back over to the botanical gardens and finish the actual garden area between the two buildings. I can't remember exactly what two buildings I'm using within game. I know one of them is like a temple or a monument, and the other is just a general aged, I think it's a European building, but they look pretty appropriate for what I was going for here. The gardens between are really simple. I'm just laying out a pedestrian path in a grid pattern and then making some really nice looking gardens between them. I'm trying to keep them symmetrical and very organised, like they've been very well kept. All typical stuff you would see with gardens like this in real life. There might be a crew of 20 gardeners every day looking after this. But one thing I will say is thank goodness for the line tool, because doing this all by hand would make this, I'd probably just tap out. So we do have some European style terracotta roofed buildings within game, and I'm going to take these and try and create this really old looking part of the town. Like, I really want this to look like part of the old town. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a rough part of town. It's just going to look like an old part of town. Like, maybe it's still sought after and these buildings are really well kept. There might be council regulations on keeping them historical in this area. Long story short, this is not going to be a favela. It's not going to be that type of area, because I know there's a few of yous after that. I just don't think I've got the assets available right now to make that area realistically. Not without burning down my house from the heat from my computer. So while I wait to see how far I can push the boundaries of how far away from the road I can put those, we're going to finish this little tram stop up here. I'm still undecided on whether I'm going to make this abandoned or make it go within game, because I'm pretty keen to see a tram move along the top of our aqueduct. For now, I'm going to err on the side of abandoned, so it's going to look a little bit rugged. There's going to be an old tram up here. I don't know whether this is sort of like on display like a museum, or just they left it up here and who really gives a But if I leave it like this, then I can come back and do something with it in future if we choose to. I'm really keen to hear from you guys actually, and give me a little bit of direction on what you think I should do here. Abandoned line or running line? So let's move back over to those houses. This is really only possible because I'm using Yin Yang's better bulldozing mod, which means I can get rid of all the fences, all the extra props, all of the surfaces, return them just to a base building, and really move them around wherever I want thanks to the Move It mod. So again guys, I'm not going to show you everything that I've done here because it's really boring, but the outcome looks really cool. Like, I'm stoked with this. This has definitely nailed the look that I'm looking for, at least this early in the game. And at this stage, all I've really done is put the buildings down. So I'm going to go around now and add some little wee props in, like fences and bushes where I can. We're still pretty limited on this sort of thing, but there's still a fair bit we can do. But let's really push City Skylines 2 here. Let's squeeze the life out of it and see what we can really do. Well, I think that looks pretty cool. All the terracotta roofs, the different elevations, the organic nature of it. Yeah, I'm digging it. It does look like an older part of town. And my house hasn't caught fire. This has left me very excited for what we can do with this game. When we couple this with the aqueduct that we built earlier, this has already added some serious character to the city. I think this looks really good sitting behind all those big buildings we put in that first episode. And as happy as I am with all of this, we're not finished with this episode, not by a long shot. We're going to add a lot more in yet. In real life, there's a real big open plaza right next to the aqueduct, and it's got some cool markings on the ground. So let's use some decals and some concrete within game and see if we can make this. So we've got our big plaza now. It looks pretty cool, but it's missing something. Let's add in some buildings. I had a really neat comment on the last video saying to me, if you really want to make it authentic Rio, you need to add fences around buildings. So I'm going to add fences around buildings. Ladies and gentlemen, I really feel like we're starting to cook here. I'm buzzing for this game. I fully understand if you are not, but I really feel a love for this game coming on, much like I felt for Citiesskylines 1, I've got to say. The base game always had that potential, but the modders, man, the modders, they're where it's at, right? I mean, I wouldn't be back playing this without them. So while we're on a roll within game, I'm going to move back to the old beach we built in the first episode and take some of the advice that has been given to me from the comments. And also, I just watched Sully's beach tutorial and, I mean, wow, I got that a bit late. Apart from my floating car on the beach, I'm really happy with it. I really liked my boardwalk that I made in the first episode, but it wasn't realistic, and if it doesn't fit with Rio, then I probably shouldn't go with it. I've also changed up quite a bit of the waterfront, and I've gone with a decal that I think kind of goes with the one in real life, and I want to change up the end of the episodes a little bit. I want to give you guys a bit of a flyover, a bit of a close-up, a bit of an unofficial look. Let's have a bit of a flyover at everything that we've made in this episode. So you can see I've added a little bit of detail to the beachfront. We've got like food stalls and stuff down here, and I've changed up the decal on the ground as well. There's a really funky pattern in real life. I've tried to match it here. I've put in a tide mark with a dark sand decal from Sully, which I think looks pretty cool. And the train station, I'm really happy with it. I've only had one passenger so far, but that's alright. One's better than none, right? I don't really know what they're coming in to visit so far, but one person's coming. What a legend. And then the Old Town part, I'm really happy with this. The botanical gardens, it all sort of comes together. Being perched up here on this little hill makes it really interesting. It just doesn't look anything like any other part of the city, which is exactly what we were going for. And then when we couple this with the aqueduct and then the square that we made as well, the plaza, yeah, I think this is really cool. This is an interesting area, and we've got one whole side of this that just hasn't been built. We're going to build up this in a future episode, but I'd like to thank each and every one of you for watching my episode today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hit me with a thumbs up if you have, and I hope to see you in the next one. Catch you later.